The training hall fell silent when Commander threw the data pad against the wall. It shattered into pieces and nobody moved. 5 young cadets stood in a line, their heads down, their fur flat against their bodies in shame. 47%, said. His voice was quiet, which was worse than shouting. Squad 77 has achieved a 47% failure rate, the lowest in 340 years of this academy's history. Felt her 4 arms trembling. She wanted to disappear. She wanted the floor to open up and swallow her whole. Next to her was breathing hard, trying not to cry. Bren just stared at nothing, his massive body somehow looking small. Myra stood at the end of the line, separate from the others as always, her strange hybrid eyes fixed on the broken data pad. You are not soldiers, continued. He walked slowly in front of them, his boots clicking on the metal floor. You are not even cadets. You are embarrassments. You shame the people. You shame this academy. You shame me. Remembered when she first arrived at Station Helix 9. She had been so proud. Her village had celebrated for 3 days when she received her acceptance letter. Her mother had cried with joy. Now, 6 months later, understood the truth. She was not special. She was not talented. She was nothing. You have 1 month, said. He stopped walking and turned to face them. 1 month to show improvement. If you fail, you will be expelled, all of you. Do you understand? Yes, Commander, they said together. Their voices were weak and tired. Made a sound of disgust and walked away. The door closed behind him with a heavy sound that echoed through the empty hall. For a long moment, nobody spoke. I hate him, whispered. She was the smallest of them, barely reaching his shoulder. Other cadets called her little mistake behind her back. Sometimes they said it to her face. Hate does not change our scores, Myra said quietly. Her voice was strange, like 2 voices speaking at once. That was because of her mixed blood. Her mother was, her father was, neither species wanted to claim her. Nothing changes our scores, Bren said. He sat down heavily on the floor. The big had failed the reflex drills 17 times. He was strong enough to lift a transport vehicle, but he could not move fast enough to pass a simple combat test. We are what they say we are, failures. Wanted to argue. She wanted to say something hopeful and brave, but she had no words, because deep inside she believed Bren was right. That was when she noticed the human. He was standing in the corner of the training hall near the observation windows, did not know how long he had been there. Humans were easy to miss. They were small compared to most species, with soft skin and no claws or fangs or extra limbs. This one had black hair and dark eyes, and he wore a simple gray uniform with no rank marks. Who is that? Asked Following's gaze. The cultural exchange observer, Myra answered. He arrived 3 days ago. His name is, he is from Earth. Had heard of Earth. It was a small planet in a distant system, home to one of the youngest species in the Galactic Coalition. Humans had only joined the Coalition 80 years ago. They had no special abilities. They were not strong like the, not fast like the, not intelligent like the, did not understand why the Coalition even allowed them membership. Why is he watching us? Bren asked. Who cares? Said bitterly. Let him watch. Let everyone watch the failures. The human did not move. He just stood there, his hands behind his back, his face showing nothing, felt uncomfortable under his gaze. She turned away and helped Bren stand up. Come on, she said. We should go eat something. They walked toward the door, passing close to the human, expected him to say something. Maybe he would mock them like everyone else. Maybe he would offer empty words of comfort that meant nothing. But he did neither. He simply watched them pass, his dark eyes following each of them in turn. Over the next 3 days, the human was always there. When they ran the obstacle course and Bren finished last again, the human watched from the sideline. When they practiced combat formations and was knocked down 11 times, the human stood in the corner taking notes. When they attempted the team coordination drill and failed so badly that the instructor ended it early, the human observed every moment. He never spoke to them. He never spoke to anyone. He just watched and wrote things in a small book. "It is strange," said one night in their shared quarters. "What is he looking for?" "Entertainment," said. She was lying on her bed, staring at the ceiling. "We are probably the funniest thing on this station. The famous failures of Squad 77. "I do not think that is it," Myra said. She was sitting by the window looking out at the stars. "His eyes are not laughing, they are thinking." "Thinking about what?" Bryn asked. Myra did not answer. She did not know. The next day was their worst yet. The drill was simple. Each squad had to cross a training field while avoiding sensor beams. Any cadet who touched a beam was eliminated. Most squads finished with only 1 or 2 eliminations. Squad 77 was eliminated completely within the first 2 minutes. Commander did not even bother to yell at them this time. He just looked at them with tired disappointment and walked away. That was somehow worse than anger. The 5 cubs sat on the edge of the training field. None of them spoke. What was there to say? They had 3 weeks left. 3 weeks until expulsion. 3 weeks until they returned home in shame. Heard footsteps approaching. She looked up and saw the human walking toward them. Her first instinct was to tell him to go away. She did not want an audience for their misery. But something stopped her. Maybe it was the way he walked, not with pity, not with mockery, just with calm purpose, like a person who had somewhere important to be. The human stopped in front of them. For a moment he just looked at each of them in turn, met his eyes and was surprised by what she saw there. It was not judgment, it was not contempt, it was something else, something she could not name. "I have watched you for 3 days," the human said. His voice was quiet but clear. "I have watched your drills, I have watched your training, I have watched your instructors." "Congratulations," said sarcastically. "Did you enjoy the show?" The human ignored her tone. "Your commanders are training you to fail," he said simply. Blinked, that was not what she expected to hear. "What?" Bryn asked. "The training methods here are designed for species with natural advantages, speed, strength, enhanced senses." The human paused. "You do not have those advantages, so you fail, every time, because you are trying to succeed at something that was never designed for you." "That is just an excuse," said, but her voice was less certain now. "No," the human said, "it is an observation. Humans have no natural advantages either. We are slow, we are weak, we die easily, but we learned something important long ago." He paused and looked at each of them again. "We learned that there is more than one way to win." Felt something strange in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize it. It was hope, small and fragile like a tiny flame in darkness, but it was there. "What are you saying?" she asked. The human smiled. It was a small smile, barely there, but it changed his whole face. "I am saying that you have been playing their game by their rules, and you have been losing, so let me ask you something." He leaned forward slightly. "Do you want to try something different?" The 5 cubs looked at each other. They had nothing to lose. They were already at the bottom. Turned back to the human and spoke for all of them. "Yes," she said, "show us." The human led them to an empty storage room in the lower levels of the station. It was dusty and forgotten, filled with old equipment that nobody used anymore. Looked around and felt her small hope begin to fade. "This is your training center?" asked. Her voice was full of doubt. "For now," said. He pushed some boxes aside and created an open space in the middle of the room. "Official facilities have observers, instructors, rules. We do not need those things." "What do we need?" Bryn asked. "New thinking." Sat down on a crate and looked at them. "First, I want each of you to tell me what you are bad at. What do your instructors say about you?" The cubs were silent for a moment. This was not a comfortable question. Spoke first. "They say I am too nervous, that I panic under pressure, that my anxiety makes me useless in combat." Nodded and looked at. "They say I am too small," said bitterly, "too weak, that I will never be strong enough to be a real soldier. Bren. The big sighed. I am too slow. I have strength but no speed. By the time I react, the fight is already over. Myra. Myra hesitated. They say I am wrong. My mixed blood makes me unpredictable. I do not fit the patterns. I do not belong anywhere. Was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled. Good, he said. Good's voice was sharp. How is any of that good? Because your instructors are idiots. Stood up and began to walk around them slowly. They see your differences as weaknesses, but on Earth, we learned something different. We learned that weakness and strength are just two sides of the same coin. It depends on how you use them. Did not understand. What do you mean? Stopped in front of her. You are nervous. You panic under pressure, but why do you panic? Because you notice everything. Your senses are sharp. You see danger before others see it. That is not weakness. That is awareness. You just need to learn how to use it. He moved too. You are small. You will never win a direct fight against a larger enemy, so do not fight directly. Small means fast. Small means hard to hit. Small means you can go places others cannot. In human warfare, we had soldiers called scouts. They were small and quick, and they won battles without ever throwing a punch. His expression changed slightly. She was listening now. Turned to Bren. You are slow, you cannot chase enemies, so do not chase them. Become the wall that they cannot pass. Become the anchor that holds the line. In human history, there were soldiers called defenders. They did not need to be fast. They just needed to be impossible to move. Finally, he stood before Myra. You do not fit the patterns. You are unpredictable. Good. Enemies study patterns. They prepare for what they expect. But they cannot prepare for something they have never seen before. Your mixed blood gives you abilities that neither nor possess alone. You see things differently. That makes you valuable. Myra stared at him with her strange eyes. No one has ever said that to me before. Then everyone else was blind, said simply. Felt the small flame of hope growing stronger, but she was still cautious. This is just talk. How does it change anything? Fair question, said. Let me show you. Tomorrow you have the team obstacle drill again. The one you failed 40 times. 43 times, Bren corrected quietly. 43 times. And you failed because you tried to complete it the way you were taught. Each of you running alone, trying to be fast and strong. Shook his head. Tomorrow you will do it differently. You will do it together. He spent the next 3 hours explaining his plan. It was nothing like anything they had learned at the academy. At the academy, teamwork meant doing the same thing at the same time. His version of teamwork was different. It meant each person doing something different, but all those different things working together like parts of a machine. Would go first, using her sharp senses to find the safest path. She would mark the dangers for others. Would move fast and light, carrying communication equipment to keep them connected. Bren would go last, protecting the rear, being the shield if anything went wrong. Myra would watch everything from a middle position, using her unique vision to see threats that others missed. This is strange, said. We were taught that every soldier should be able to do everything. That is training for average soldiers, said. We are not training to be average. We are training to be something different, something they have never seen before. The next morning, Squad 77 stood at the start of the obstacle course. Other squads were watching. Some were laughing already, expecting another entertaining failure. Commander stood with the other instructors, his face showing no emotion. His hearts were beating fast, 2 of them like all pounding against her chest. She was terrified, but his voice echoed in her mind, awareness is not weakness, use it. The signal sounded, the drill began. Moved forward but not fast, not reckless. She moved carefully, her 4 ears turning in different directions, listening for the sensor beams. There, and there. She marked them with small hand signals, the ones had taught them the night before. Behind her moved like water flowing through the gaps found. She relayed positions to the others through tiny whispered signals. Bren came next, big and slow, but following the exact path they had cleared for him. He did not need to be fast. He just needed to trust them. Myra watched everything. Her hybrid eyes could see heat and movement in ways Pure could not. When a hidden sensor appeared that missed, Myra spotted it and warned them. It was not pretty. It was not fast. Other squads had finished minutes ago. The observers were getting bored. But then something happened that made everyone stop talking. Squad 77 crossed the finish line, all 5 of them, together. Stood there breathing hard, unable to believe it. She looked at her squad mates and saw the same shock on their faces. They had done it. For the first time in 43 attempts, they had completed the drill without a single elimination. Commander's face was unreadable. He checked the scores, then checked them again. Finally, he spoke. Completed, time 14 minutes, eliminations 0. Their time was terrible, the worst of any squad that day, but they had finished. That was more than they had ever done before. The laughing from other squads had stopped. Now there was confused silence. That night back in the storage room, the Cubs could not stop talking. "We did it," kept saying. "We actually did it." "Our time was still bad," Bren pointed out, but he was smiling. "Time can be improved," said. "What matters is that you proved something today. You proved that you can succeed, not by their rules, by your own." Looked at the human with new respect. "How do you know all this? Where did you learn to think this way?" Was quiet for a moment. His eyes became distant, looking at something far away. "On Earth," he said slowly, "humans were not always at the top. We were prey before we were hunters. We survived because we learned to adapt, to work together, to find ways around problems we could not solve directly." He paused. "The universe is full of species stronger than us, faster than us, smarter than us, but we are still here. That is not an accident." Understood something then. The human was not just teaching them tricks. He was teaching them a way of thinking, a way of surviving. The next day, Commander found them in the storage room. His face was cold as he looked at. "I know what you are doing," he said. "This unauthorized training stops now." "I am a cultural exchange observer," replied calmly. "I am sharing my culture. That is my purpose here." "Your purpose is to watch, not to interfere." "The exchange agreement allows me to engage in cultural sharing activities." Met the commander's eyes without fear. Teaching is a cultural activity. Sfer bristled with anger, but was right and they both knew it. The agreement protected him. "Enjoy your little games," said finally. "It will not matter. They will still fail. They will always fail because that is what they are, failures." He left without another word. The Cubs looked worried, but just turned back to them with that small smile. "Good," he said. "Now he knows we are serious. That means the real training can begin." Word spread through the academy like fire. Squad 77, the famous failures, had completed a drill, not just any drill. The team obstacle course they had failed 43 times in a row. Cadets whispered in hallways. Instructors exchanged confused looks. Something was wrong with the natural order of things. Noticed the stares when she walked to the dining hall. Before, the other cadets had looked at her with pity or contempt. Now there was something else in their eyes, curiosity, maybe even a little fear. "They are talking about us," said at dinner. She stabbed her food with unnecessary force. "I heard some cadets from Squad 12. They said we must have cheated." "Let them talk," Myra said quietly. "Words do not change results." But the words did change something. They brought attention, and attention brought trouble. 3 days later, a tall approached them after training. His name was, and he was everything Squad 77 was not. His fur was perfect gold, the color of nobility. His family had produced military leaders for 6 generations. He was the top cadet at the academy, destined for great things. He looked at them like they were insects. "So these are the failures who think they can become soldiers," said. His voice was smooth and cold. "I heard you completed a drill. Congratulations. Even broken clocks are right sometimes." "What do you want?" asked. Her small body was tense with anger. "I want to offer you a chance to prove yourselves." Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "A formal competition, my squad against yours, in front of the entire academy. Let everyone see what you really are." Felt her heart sink. Squad was the best. They had never lost a competition. This was a trap, a way to humiliate them publicly and destroy whatever small confidence they had built. "We accept," a voice said. Everyone turned, had appeared behind them, silent as always. Looked at the human with curiosity. "The Earthborn speaks for you now. How pathetic." "We accept," repeated calmly, "but we choose the scenario." Laughed. "That is not how formal competitions work. Check the rules. The challenged party can select the scenario type from the approved list." His voice was patient, like a teacher explaining something to a slow student. "We select extended siege simulation." The smile faded from his face. Extended siege was a long scenario, 6 hours minimum. Most competitions used quick strike exercises that lasted 20 minutes. Extended siege was grueling, exhausting, and unpopular. "That is a coward's choice," said. "You want to hide instead of fight." "I want to win," said simply. "Do you accept?" For a moment hesitated, then his pride won. "Fine, extended siege. In 3 days, the whole academy will watch you fail." He walked away, his golden fur gleaming under the lights. "Are you insane?" Grab's arm. "We cannot beat them, not in any scenario." "In a quick strike you are right," agreed. "They are faster, stronger, better trained. In 20 minutes they will destroy you." He paused. "But in 6 hours, things change." The next 3 days were the hardest training of their lives. Did not let them sleep more than 4 hours each night. He made them practice the same movements hundreds of times. He taught them things that were not in any academy manual: how to conserve energy, how to wait without losing focus, how to stay calm when everything around them was chaos. "The coalition trained soldiers to be explosive," he explained. "Fast starts, quick victories, but humans learned something different on Earth. We learned that the longer a fight goes, the more important endurance becomes. Your enemies will burn bright and fast. You will burn slow and steady. And when their fire dies, yours will still be lit." The night before the competition, could not sleep anyway. She found sitting alone in the storage room, looking at something on his data pad. "What is that?" she asked. He did not hide it. The screen showed an old photograph. Humans in military uniforms standing in front of a damaged building. They looked tired and thin, but they were smiling. Said quietly, "A human colony, 20,000 people. We were attacked by raiders. They had ships, weapons, technology. We had nothing." He paused. "The fight lasted 6 months. When coalition forces finally arrived, they expected to find corpses. Instead, they found us, still alive, still fighting." Stared at the photograph. "How?" "We did not know how to surrender." His voice was distant. "Humans are strange that way. When everything is lost, when logic says to give up, something in us refuses. We just keep going. 1 more hour, 1 more day, 1 more chance." He looked at her. "That is what I am teaching you, not tactics, not techniques, just the simple truth that no fight is over until you decide it is over." Thought about that for a long time. The competition began at dawn. The training hall had been transformed into a complex battlefield simulation. Walls, barriers, corridors, hiding spots. 2 flags at opposite ends. The goal was simple: protect your flag while capturing the enemies. The first team to capture, or the team with more points after 6 hours, would win. The entire academy was watching. Commander sat in the front row of the observation area, his face carefully blank. Squad moved first. They were beautiful to watch. Fast, coordinated, powerful. Within the first hour, they had pushed Squad 77 back to their defensive position and scored 3 direct hits on them. The observers began to look bored. This was exactly what everyone expected. The failures were failing again. But had prepared for this. Hold, he had told them. Do not attack, do not chase, just survive. Let them wear themselves out. It was hard. Every instinct screamed at to fight back, to prove herself. But she trusted the human now. She trusted his strange way of thinking. Hour 2. Squad was still dominant, but their attacks were coming slower. They had expected quick victory. They had trained for quick victory. The extended time was something they had never practiced. Hour 3. The Golden Squad began making mistakes, small ones at first, a formation slightly out of position, an attack that should have been coordinated but was not. Now, said through their communication channel. Squad 77 counterattacked. Moved first, her small body darting through gaps that larger could not fit through. She appeared behind enemy lines like a ghost and disabled their communication relay. Suddenly, Squad could not talk to each other. Bren advanced next, not running, walking, a steady, unstoppable wall of muscle. 3 of his cadets tried to stop him. They bounced off like small rocks against a mountain. Used her anxiety the way had taught her. Instead of fear, it became focus. She heard everything. She saw patterns in the chaos. She guided her squad through the confusion with small signals and soft words. Myra was everywhere and nowhere. Her hybrid vision let her see through the smoke and shadows. She appeared behind enemies and disappeared before they could react. Hour 4, Squad 77 was winning. The observers were not bored anymore. They were standing, leaning forward, unable to believe what they were seeing. Hour 5, himself led a desperate attack on their position. He was still strong, still fast, but he was also tired, more tired than he had ever been in training. Bren met him at the defensive line. The big did not try to match speed. He just stood there, absorbing every hit, refusing to fall. Move, screamed. His voice cracked with frustration. No, Bren said simply. And who had circled around behind them, captured's flag. The simulation ended. The hall was silent. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. Then the scores appeared on the main display. Winner, Squad 77. The silence broke. Whispers became murmurs, became shouts of disbelief. Commander was standing now, his face no longer blank. He looked angry, he looked scared. Stood alone in the middle of the battlefield, staring at nothing. His perfect record was broken, by the failures, by the rejects, by the nobodies. Felt joy flooding through her body. They had done it. They had actually done it. But then Commander raised his hand. The results are invalid, he announced. The scenario was non-standard. The competition does not count. The joy died instantly. Appeared beside, his face showed no surprise, no anger. He had expected this. They are scared now, he said quietly so only the cubs could hear. That is when you have already won. Remember this feeling. Remember what they did to you today, and use it. Looked at her squad mates. Face was full of fury. Bren looked sad but determined. Myra's strange eyes glowed with something dangerous. They had won, everyone knew it. And no matter what Commander said, that truth would not change. The real victory was not on any scoreboard. The real victory was in their hearts. They knew now what they were capable of. And so did everyone else. The annual final evaluation was the most important event at the Academy. 3 days of continuous combat simulation. No rest, no mercy, no second chances. Every cadet's future was decided by their performance. The best squads would receive elite assignments. The worst would be sent home in shame. 2 weeks remained. 2 weeks for Squad 77 to prepare for the greatest challenge of their lives. Commander made sure they knew exactly what they faced. Zone 7, he announced at the assignment ceremony. His voice carried no emotion, but his eyes showed dark satisfaction. Mountain terrain, winter conditions. You will face 3 enemy squads simultaneously. Felt cold spread through her body. Zone 7 was notorious. The harshest environment in the simulation. Freezing temperatures, steep cliffs, limited visibility. Squads assigned there rarely survived the first day. And 3 enemy squads, that meant they would be outnumbered 3 to 1. "That is not fair," said later, her voice shaking with anger. "He is trying to kill us." "He is trying to make us quit," corrected. He sat calmly in their storage room training space, showing no concern. "There is a difference." "Is there?" Bren asked. "The result is the same. We cannot win against those odds." "Winning is not the only goal," said. "Surviving is, completing the evaluation is. Most squads quit before the 3 days are over. They surrender, they give up. We will not." "How can you be so calm?" asked. She was terrified, more terrified than she had ever been. Everything they had worked for could be destroyed in 3 days. Was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his bag and pulled out something old and worn, a piece of fabric with strange symbols. "This was my grandfather's," he said. "He carried it during the Pacific War on Earth. His unit was trapped on an island, no supplies, no reinforcements, enemies everywhere. They were told to surrender. They were told it was hopeless." He paused. "They held that island for 3 months until rescue arrived. Half of them died, but the other half lived because they refused to accept that the situation was impossible." He looked at each of them in turn. "On Earth, we have a word for impossible situations. We call them Tuesday, because every week brings new problems, new challenges, new reasons to give up. And every week we choose not to." Myra spoke quietly. "What are you really saying?" "I am saying that Commander expects you to fail. He expects you to quit. He has arranged everything to make sure of it," smiled his small smile. "So we will do the opposite. We will show him and everyone else what humans have learned over thousands of years of surviving impossible odds." The training for the next 2 weeks was brutal, pushed them harder than ever. He made them exercise in cold rooms until their fur was covered in ice. He kept them awake for 2 days straight, then made them run combat drills. He taught them how to fight when they were exhausted, hungry, and scared. "Your body wants to quit," he said during one terrible session when could barely stand. "Your mind wants to rest, but there is something deeper, something that exists beyond body and mind. Humans call it will. It is the part of you that refuses to stop. Find it, because in Zone 7 that will be all you have." Found it, somewhere in the darkest part of those training nights when she thought she could not take another step, she discovered something inside herself. A small voice that said, "One more step, just one more, and then one more after that." The final evaluation began on a cold morning. Squad 77 materialized in Zone 7. The simulation technology made it feel completely real. The wind cut through fur like knives. Snow was falling so thick she could barely see her squad mates standing next to her. Their supplies were minimal. Their position was exposed, and somewhere in the white darkness, 3 enemy squads were hunting them. "Move to the caves," ordered through their communication system. He was watching from the observation room, allowed to communicate but not to participate directly. "High ground, defensible position, go." They moved. Bren broke trail through the deep snow, scouted ahead, her small body able to move faster in the difficult terrain. Listened for enemies, her ears straining against the howling wind. Myra watched everything with her hybrid eyes that could see heat even through the storm. They reached the caves after 2 hours of hard climbing. It was not comfortable. It was not warm, but it was something. The first attack came before nightfall. Enemy Squad 14 appeared from below, moving fast. They expected to find their targets tired and cold. They found Bren waiting in a narrow passage, immovable as stone. The fight lasted 20 minutes. Squad 14 lost 3 cadets to elimination before retreating. Good's voice crackled through the communication channel, but they will be back with the others. He was right. Day 2 was worse. All 3 enemy squads coordinated their attack. They came from 3 directions, pushing Squad 77 deeper into the caves, was hit and nearly eliminated. Myra saved her but burned through most of her energy reserves doing it. By the end of Day 2, they were trapped. No escape route, almost no supplies, enemy squads at every exit. The communication channel crackled. Status report said. His voice was hoarse. We are surrounded, no ammunition is injured, we cannot hold. There was a long pause. Then Attack said. What? Bren's voice was incredulous. We are surrounded, attacking is suicide. You are already dying slowly, might as well die fast and loud. Paused, or win, those are your choices. Looked at her squad, they were exhausted, could barely stand. Bren had been awake for almost 70 hours. Myra's strange eyes were dull with fatigue. But in each of them saw something else, that small fire they had discovered in training, will. He is right, said. If we stay here, we die. If we attack, we might still die, but at least we die fighting. Inspiring speech, said weakly. Did you practice that? Despite everything, laughed. It was a broken sound, tired and rough, but it was real. Let us go, she said. They attacked at dawn on Day 3. The enemy squads did not expect it. They had settled into siege positions, waiting for the trapped cubs to surrender. Instead, Bren came crashing through their northern line like an avalanche of muscle and fury. The confusion that followed was beautiful. Guided them through the chaos with her sharp senses. She heard every footstep, every breath, every whisper of cloth against snow. She knew where the enemies were before they knew themselves. Despite her injury, moved like a spirit through the fighting. She appeared and disappeared, striking at weak points, never staying long enough to be caught. Myra found the enemy command position. She did not attack it. She fed it false information, making the 3 squads turn against each other in the confusion. And Bren held. For 20 minutes the Big stood at a critical junction, taking hit after hit, refusing to fall. His body was screaming for rest. His mind was begging for surrender, but his will said no. One more hit, just one more. The simulation ended with a sound like thunder. Collapsed in the snow. She could not move, she could not think, she could only breathe. But they had survived, all 5 of them. 3 days of impossible odds, and they had not quit. They had not surrendered. They had done the thing that humans had been doing since the beginning of their species. They had endured. The scores came later. Tactical efficiency, highest in Academy history. Survival rating, perfect. Combat adaptability, off the scale. But those were just numbers. The real victory was simpler. They had walked into hell. And they had walked out again. Together. The results were displayed on the main hall screen for the entire Academy to see. Stood with her squad mates, still wearing their dirty, damaged uniforms from the evaluation, still exhausted beyond words. Around them, hundreds of cadets and instructors watched in complete silence. Squad 77, tactical efficiency, 97.3%, highest recorded score in Academy history. Commander pushed through the crowd. His face was twisted with anger. These results are wrong. The scoring system must have made an error. The system has been checked 3 times, Commander, an instructor replied nervously. The results are accurate. Impossible. These are the worst cadets in the Academy. They cannot have. Commander, a new voice cut through the noise. Old but strong, carrying absolute authority. Everyone turned. Academy Commandant walked slowly toward them. She was ancient by standards, her silver fur marked with the scars of 100 battles. She had led armies. She had conquered worlds. And she was looking at Squad 77 with something had never seen directed at them before. Respect. I have reviewed the evaluation footage personally, Commandant said. I have analyzed every tactical decision, every movement, every moment of those 3 days. The results stand. His face went pale, but Commandant, the methods they used were effective. His voice left no room for argument. That is what matters, not tradition, not expectations, results. She turned to look at who was standing quietly behind the cubs. You are the human, the one who trained them. Nodded, I am. Your methods are unconventional. Yes. They go against everything this academy has taught for 300 years. Yes. Studied him for a long moment. Then slowly she smiled. It transformed her ancient face completely. Good, she said. We have been doing the same thing for too long. Perhaps it is time to learn something new. The crowd exploded in whispers. Commander looked like he wanted to disappear. Over the next few days, everything changed. Squad 77 was no longer the Academy's joke. Cadets who had mocked them now wanted to learn from them. Instructors who had dismissed them now requested meetings to understand their methods. The name was spoken with curiosity and wonder. But the biggest change was for the cubs themselves. 1 week after the evaluation, they received their official assignment offers. Read hers 3 times, unable to believe the words. Elite Reconnaissance Unit, First Choice Assignment, Immediate Placement upon Graduation. Had been offered a position in the Special Operations Division. Bren was requested by the Heavy Defense Corps, the most prestigious defensive unit in the coalition. Myra had received something even more unusual, an invitation to join coalition intelligence, where her unique perspective would be valued rather than feared. They gathered in their old storage room training space that evening. It felt strange to be there now, the room where they had discovered who they could become. I never thought I would have choices, said softly. I thought I would be lucky to get any assignment at all. We all did, Bren agreed. We were ready to go home in shame. Myra was quiet, looking at her assignment offer with her strange hybrid eyes. They want me because I am different, not despite it. Felt tears forming. She did not try to stop them. After everything they had been through, she had earned the right to cry. What do we do now? She asked. They all looked at. The human was sitting in his usual spot, on an old crate in the corner. His face showed that small smile they had come to know so well. That is your decision, he said. You have proved yourselves, you have earned your places. Whatever you choose, you deserve it. What about you? Asked. What will you do? I have been offered a permanent instructor position here at the academy. Paused. I have not decided if I will accept. Frowned. Why would you not? You could teach others what you taught us. Because I would need good assistants. Looked at each of them in turn. Teachers who understand the methods, who lived through them, who can show other struggling cadets that failure is not the end. Understood. Her hearts began beating faster. You want us to stay, she said, to teach with you. I am asking, corrected. The choice is yours. You have elite assignments waiting, prestigious units, important careers. Nobody would blame you for taking them. The cubs looked at each other, saw the same conflict in their faces that she felt in her heart. They had dreamed of important positions, of proving themselves to the galaxy, and now those dreams were within reach. But there was another dream, a newer one, the dream of helping others who were like them, the failures, the rejects, the ones nobody believed in. Bren spoke first. I spent my whole life being told I was too slow, too clumsy, too much of a disappointment. His voice was rough with emotion. Then a human showed me that slow could be strong, that clumsy could be solid, that different was not the same as wrong. He paused. I want to show others the same thing. Nodded fiercely. I am staying. Those elite assignments will still be there later, but right now there are cubs at this academy who feel like we felt. Hopeless, worthless. They need to know it does not have to stay that way. Myra spoke quietly but firmly. For the first time in my life, I belong somewhere. I am not leaving. They all looked at. She thought about her village, her mother's tears of joy when she was accepted to the academy, the pride of her people. She thought about how they would react if she told them she was turning down an elite assignment to become a teacher. Then she thought about the storage room, the long nights of training, the impossible evaluation, her squad mates beside her, fighting through exhaustion and fear and doubt, the human who looked at failures and saw potential. "I'm staying too," she said. Smile grew wider. It was the most emotion had ever seen him show. "Then let us begin," he said. 1 year later, a new group of cadets arrived at Station Helix 9. They were the rejects of their generation, the failures, the ones nobody wanted. They were gathered in a small room, expecting another lecture about their inadequacy. Instead, they found 5 figures waiting for them. 4 in instructor uniforms, a nervous-looking female with sharp ears, a small, fierce one with scars from training, a massive male who seemed to fill half the room, and a strange hybrid with eyes that saw everything. And 1 human, small by any measure, no claws, no fangs, no extra limbs, just dark eyes that seemed to look straight through them. "I know what you are feeling," the human said. His voice was quiet but somehow filled the room. "You have been told you are not good enough. You have been told you will never succeed. You have been told that you are failures." The cadets shifted uncomfortably. This was not the speech they expected. "I am here to tell you something different." The human paused, looking at each of them in turn. "Your commanders are training you to fail. They are trying to make you into something you are not. And you have been losing because you have been playing their game by their rules." He stepped forward, and somehow that small movement commanded attention like nothing else. "My name is, these are my colleagues, Bren and Myra. 1 year ago they were the worst squad in Academy history. Now they hold the highest tactical efficiency record ever recorded. Not because they became what the Academy wanted, because they became something different, something new, something human." He smiled that small smile. "Do you want to try something different?" The cadets looked at each other, scared, uncertain, hopeless. But in some of their eyes saw something familiar, a tiny spark, a small flame that refused to die. Hope. The records of Station Helix 9 would note that from that year forward, every squad trained by the Earthborn and his colleagues graduated with honors. Military historians would later call it the human doctrine, a revolution in coalition training that transformed how they thought about soldiers, about strength, about what it meant to succeed. But her squad mates called it something simpler. They called it Tuesday. Because every week brought new challenges, new problems, new cadets who needed to learn the most important lesson in the galaxy. Failure is not the end. It is just the beginning.